The way in which you would try and re-engage a customer, you've got to sometimes use different techniques to try and win them back. In some instances, those emails might be more. Another example of where email marketing can really and truly work is often when you're able to educate your consumer as well through email. Having that step-by-step content that's in a written format is actually really impactful for me to find a new way of using that product or engaging with that particular brand. Some of the essentials of an actual email itself is things like a subject heading, but people often forget that you should also consider. Welcome to The Disruptionists, where the status quo has no seat at the table. I'm Jess, and this is your invitation to join the movement of game-changing, boundary-pushing strategies that will take your marketing, branding, and customer journey to the next level. Let's get disruptive. Let's talk about email marketing, everyone. Love it or hate it, I think email marketing is here to stay. Essentially, email marketing is just another way to stay top of mind of the customers that we're trying to deal with. Whether you are trying to grab their attention as one of 1,000 emails, or in my dad's case, I think dad's got something like 7,500 emails open, but I guarantee you he still opens some emails. So what is it that we can do to make sure it's our email that gets opened over other people? Essentially, I think if we start looking at taking it back down to it being a conversation rather than a sales or transactional kind of communication, that might be the way that we can continue to have impact and still be able to add value to our customers. So if you think about your own inbox, for example, what are the type of emails that you constantly ignore? For me, I guess it depends on the sort of mode that I'm in. So around the end of financial year, for example, I almost pre-plan on opening emails that are going to have special offers because I just know that seasonally, this is the time of year that I'm likely to get a bargain, potentially with the companies that I sort of love. I might be saving up for that particular period. So if you know that, then maybe the subject that you use in that particular email is have you been waiting for end of financial year? We've got you. That's more likely to convert someone like me to actually open up and be able to see what your company has to offer. Email marketing is actually also another way to help keep your customers up to date with what's happening and what's new within your particular organization. So one person that comes to my mind and someone that I follow is a lady called Lisa Messenger. She is just known as a bit of an entrepreneur in the Australian landscape. And even though she went a little bit quiet on her emails, it was actually really nice just to get her to drop into my inbox every now and then and give me an update on what she was doing in her world of business. And it's almost like I got excited when she came back into the inbox and was telling me about new things that she was trying. As someone who actually used to have her own magazine that was being sold in Australia, she's become a bit of a guide in how to actually publish. So for me, not that I'm ready to publish right now, but she's actually doing retreats in Byron Bay, I believe, to teach people how to also maybe publish their book for the first time. So in that particular case, it was just, I don't know, for me as a customer, a really nice way of keeping up with what's happening in her world. Is there something that you could do as well that isn't just about a sale or a transactional based sort of we've got a brand new product for you? Is there something that you could do that will keep your customers engaged through emails? Another aspect of email marketing that maybe you've never considered before is the fact that we're going to have very different reasons to actually email someone. So when I work with companies, I'm working with companies who not only have an offer to make sometimes, but they're actually trying to re-engage a customer. The way in which you would try and re-engage a customer would require a really, really different sequence of copy and techniques to be able to get their attention and get them to possibly come back and connect with you and maybe even visit your website after a really long absence. So in the previous example that I gave you, that is when we're trying to re-engage a customer, and essentially it's called re-engagement marketing. In that particular sequence, you've got to sometimes use different techniques to try and win them back. So in some instances, those emails might be more humor-based, or it might just be that you've got a great offer that if they come back, it's a limited offer and they get this amazing discount or bonus. And that's something that you can do in a bit of a win back or re-engagement campaign. On the other hand, I spend a lot of time with clients who are trying to do what we call lead nurture sequences. Essentially, we're referring to the fact that someone's actually clicked or engaged on some kind of ad or some sort of activity, but they don't necessarily really know your brand very well. So from their perspective, let's think about it. It's almost like going on a first date. They might not necessarily want to sort of commit to you right there on the spot. They're a little bit interested, but they want to know more. Essentially, that's what a lead nurture sequence allows you to do. You give them a little bit more of a taste of you, what you stand for, what your vision is, what your goals are, how you're going to support them. So in other words, lead nurture sequences are so different from, you can imagine, the tactics and strategies that go into the re-engagement nurture sequences and emails that we spoke about before. The one that I think a lot of you are doing is probably more of the promotional, sales, and transactional emails. I guess if there's one really big key takeaway from this episode is to really go outside of that space and realize that your customer doesn't just want to be told every time you've got a sale. They actually probably want to learn more about you, your brand, what's happening behind the scenes, and actually build a relationship with you. Another example of where email marketing can really and truly work is often when you're able to educate your consumer as well. So an example of someone who I absolutely love, she is someone I personally know, and she owns a nail dip business. So essentially, don't go to the nail salon. You can actually do it at home. I think it's gel dips, and I'm not an expert at beauty products, but what she does really, really well is in her email marketing, she connects with the customer by showing them tutorials and ways in which to actually apply new products, new techniques, and it continues to keep engaging her customers through email, which isn't somewhere that I would necessarily associate with an online brand in the cosmetics area. You'd think that she'd just be on social media. But for someone like me, actually having that step-by-step content that's in a written format is actually really impactful for me to find a new way of using that product or engaging with that particular brand. So some of the essentials of an actual email itself is things like a subject heading, but people often forget that you should also consider what you're putting in as preview text. That's that little bit of text that actually allows you to hover over it and give you an insight into maybe what you're going to be talking about in that particular email. And if you've got something engaging, it's highly likely that the person will then click on that particular email, open it up, and have a read of the message. The other thing that I always remind any of my clients is that in the email, you should generally have like one goal or intention that you're trying to direct the reader to do. So it could be that you really just want them to download this fantastic new resource that you're offering. It could be that you want them to realize that this is a brand new offer and it's just for a limited time only. Whatever it is, try not to confuse them by giving them multiple options of things to do. Try and stick to just one main call to action for every single email that you have. So one of the other things that you need to consider about email marketing is possibly the frequency and the timing of when you do decide to send emails. There's nothing worse than being bombarded by far too many emails from a particular company or brand, but there's actually nothing worse than not being able to reach a customer and understand how many times it takes before they're actually able to make an action. So what I mean by that is that it might surprise you that it takes maybe 7 or 8 attempts in your customer's inbox before they actually take the action that you'd really love them to take. And it's simply because they're just so busy and so overwhelmed with other things. They know they want it, they know they need it, and if you just keep attempting it for like the 5th, 6th or 7th time, so long as it's not done, in a intrusive way, or if it's not done in a way that seems like you're spamming them, it's likely to have the impact that you're looking for. So I guess the tip there is don't always give up after 1 or 2 attempts in an email sequence. Try and give it a couple of more attempts than you think is necessarily right. For me, that sweet spot is usually between 5 and 7 attempts. So to sum things up, we've basically given you a little bit of an introduction here about what email marketing is. And primarily, we've looked at the fact that there's a few different types of email marketing. So whether it's you trying to re-engage or whether you're trying to nurture your leads, you really have to be clear on what your goal is. Secondly, we also wrapped up this episode and shared what it takes to have a really good email. What consists of something that is going to be attractive enough for a person who's got 7,000 emails to actually click and open yours. Hopefully this has given you a little bit more of an insight, and I can't wait to hear how successful you are with your email marketing campaigns. Thanks for joining me on The Disruptionists. If this episode sparked new ideas or challenged your thinking, I'd love your support with a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And don't forget to subscribe to your favorite platform to catch every disruptive insight. For more behind-the-scenes content and to connect with like-minded disruptors, follow me at It's Jess Singh across all social platforms. And remember, stay disruptive.